Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another tier list. This time we're going through the colors of the Magic the Gathering color wheel, based off decks that I built and used and have experience with, because I haven't had an experience with all of these colors, even though I've been playing Magic for over a year and a half now. Actually, it hasn't been a year and a half. It's only been about a year. But it feels like a hell of a lot longer. So I do plan on making some Magic the Gathering content here soon. I think I probably already have a couple videos out by now. But here we are. We're going to be going through the color wheel, talking about some decks that I built and what I think about them. This is not going to be a tier list on the viability of each color. I don't know that. I'm not good at that. I just know that I like these colors and this is what I like to build. Starting off, we're going with monocolor to two color to three color, then four color, WUBRG, and colorless. I'll actually put colorless here with our monocolors. Starting off, we have mono white. I actually really like mono white. I feel like not a lot of people do. Uh, I you're gonna notice a trend here when it comes to our my rankings. Here is I like tokens. Tokens are my friend, and mono white gives you a lot of them. You know, stuff like Adeline, things like that. Like Adeline's probably one of my favorite commanders for mono white because she brings out so many tokens that it's not even funny. Mono blue, I it's not that I think that is bad or that I don't like building with it, because it's just that blue is such a strong color when it comes to how powerful it is, for the fact that it's a lot of easy, like it's pernicious counter spells. So you pernicious want to bring in as many as you can. You could definitely do some stuff with it. That's why it's not in F tier. I really enjoy playing like Talrand, like making a bunch of Drake tokens and then swinging big with it while casting out a bunch of like small, like 1 mana blue spells. Like consider. Ooh, I'm blanking on them right now. I do know consider, opt, some a few other things like that. Swan Song, Counterspell, Negate, stuff like that. You know, your cheap spells you just want to cast, you can get a 2/2 Drake out of it. That flies too. But other than that, I mean, Mono Blue's a lot of control stuff like Jin-Gitaxias, Core Augur, things like that. Urza, Lord High Artificer. Like it's a lot of really strong strategies that are in Mono Blue that I'm just not a big fan of. Mono Black, I like it about as much as Mono White. There's probably not as much. I'd probably put that in B tier. So Mono Black, it's a lot of fun, but it can also be really, really toxic. You know, something like Braids that was just unbanned, Maha, it's Feathers Knight, even Desmond Miles, right? I think gives, no, that's an enchantment that I'm thinking of that gives all your creatures fear. But there's like a few really like kind of toxic colors, a lot of toxic things you can do in mono black that it can make the experience really unfun for your pod, which is why I don't really like building it often. Usually I'll put like black in other things, like I'll play like Rakdos, or I'll play Golgari, or I'll play, Esper. Actually, I actually really don't play Esper, but it was just the example I saw first. But like Mardu, like a few other, like I'll splash black in places, but I really don't like playing mono black. Same thing with mono red. In fact, I'm actually gonna put mono red here with mono blue, and that's just for the fact that mono red's not fun. Like mono red is usually either you get to do what you want by like turn 5, or you never get to it. Like there's not much ramp in mono red. There's not much you can get fast in mono red except for like Jessica's Will, Seeding Song, Brass's Bounty, Braid of Fire. Yeah, Braid of Fire, Braids of Fire, like stuff like that. But it's like those are one-time uses for the most part. Braid of Fire is a cumulative upkeep. You had one red mana, so I mean like there's at least one like ramp piece, but even then Braid of Fire is like 4 or 5 mana compared to something like Blue, where you have something like Urza, who gets you monocolor mana. Uh, in black, you have Cryptghast. Mono white, you have mono white's a lot of just really low mana spells already, so you really don't need to ramp. Green is green. Red doesn't really have anything like that. Like there's certain ones like if you're playing goblins, you can run Skirk Prospector, but even then that's a creature that you can't bring back to the graveyard because it's red. Like you're not gonna be able to get it back with anything. Maybe for a turn, but other than that, red has nothing. Mono green, obvious S tier. Like I love playing green to begin with. I like to make big creature go hit thing, and green lets me do that. One of my favorites is Gulta Stampede Tyrant with I'm blanking on the card. Let me pull up my decks because it'll tell me. It is Gulta with Soul of the Harvest. You play Soul of the Harvest down, and then you get Gulta out. And what you end up doing is potentially going infinite, pulling out as many creatures as you possibly can. Because Gulta's ability is Gulta Stampede Tyrant specifically. That's ability is when it enters the battlefield, you put as many creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So the Harvest is similar to something like Guardian's Project. But with Guardian's Project, you need to cast that creature. For Soul Harvester, you don't have to cast a creature. It just has to be a non-token creature entering the battlefield. You draw a card. Meaning, if you have like 40 creatures in your deck and you play a Soul Harvester, or yeah, Soul Harvester or Soul of the Harvest? Soul of the Harvest. You play a Soul of the Harvest, and you can just potentially draw like your entire deck, just placing creatures out on the battlefield with Gulta. And it pretty much just wins you the game on the spot. And then you can also like end it with with a Craterhoof Behemoth and just have like all your creatures that are already like 8 power or more getting like +10/+10 trample and haste for the turn. Like win on like turns 5 or 6 potentially, because I mean Gulta's an 8 mana, and then Soul the Harvest is a 6 mana. But again, you're in green, you're gonna be able to just be like, oh hey, it's turn 3, here's a Rampant Growth. Oh hey, it's turn 4, here's a Kodama's Reach. And then I'm also being able to play 2 lands per turn because I have Dryad of the Elysian Grove, I have Exploration, I have Azusa. Like green allows you to pretty much do whatever you want and not need to worry about a mana curve, at least as much compared to like other colors. Next up, we have colorless. Colorless can be either really fun or really pointless. One of my favorite decks for colorless uh is Gra's Unstoppable Juggernaut. Now, what it does is it makes all of your creatures 5/3 Juggernauts and makes them swing every turn. So what you end up doing is making your like 2/2 Solemn Simulacrum into a 5/3 who's just gonna hit much stronger, you know? Like you're able to get a lot more out of it than you would from just about anything else, you know? Like you're getting a lot out of it for very little value, like very little cost. You're getting high value. You're able to play a bunch of 1/1s that you can very easily get through, especially since you're in colorless. There's not really a whole lot you could do for like protection and stuff like that. Oh yeah, also, Juggernauts can't be blocked by walls. Not really all that useful. I'm actually just reading the card now, and I just kind of said that because I thought it said it can only be blocked by walls, which would have made this a whole hell of a lot stronger. But I have the deck. It's pretty much just a bunch of artifact creatures with something like Steel Overseer to boost it, you know, Mirror Retriever to get things back, Cyberman Squadron to be, getting that Myriad trigger on your creatures. Like, it's allowing you to do so much for so little mana, because even then, only Graza is only like a handful of mana. It's pretty easy to cast, and it's a fun deck. Azorius, I've been working a lot with Azorius. Not in control, surprisingly. It was actually with Life Gain. It was from the last Miku Secret Lair, where Zargo, Brago, I don't know, one of the two. Yeah, Brago, I think. I gotta look this up now. Hold up. Yeah, Brago, King Eternal, where it was Miku, Queen of Pop, where whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you're able to exile any permanent and non-land permanent on your battlefield and return to the battlefield. So you're pretty much flickering off of combat damage. It's really it. I had so much fun doing it. I did it with I built the deck like 4 different ways. One way was life gain. One way was pure like it was Azorius control, and then it was also a mixture of the three. And I found life gain to be a lot more fun because to me control and mill are like my two least favorite types of gameplay for any card game, not just Magic, especially Magic though. And it comes from the fact that I want everyone to be able to play the game, because if I'm just playing by myself essentially, it's just not fun. And if I'm playing something like, oh yeah, I'm casting a bunch of creatures, I swing in my Miku, and then I gain like an extra like 20 life because everything returns, and then I have a Soul Warden and a Soul's Attendant on the battlefield, and they just gain me a bunch of life. Like, that's awesome. And it's a lot of fun. Plus it's also Miku. Who doesn't love Miku? Dimir. Dimir is alright. It's mostly control and it's mostly mill, which isn't my thing. But Dimir also has some fun things in it. Like, it's not entirely the same thing over and over and over again, where unlike some of these other colors, it's like mono green. You always know mono green's gonna be fast and big creatures. Azorius is for the most part gonna be control, whereas with Dimir, you have your mill and stuff, but you also have like creature stealing with like Xanathar. You have uh like giving creatures out like John Ereticus. There's also like ninjutsu with Yuriko. There is also like Toxrill, which is Dimir control. Who doesn't love some control, especially in Dimir, but there is a lot of other things you can do. There's also something like Bossum Ibn Ishak, which is my favorite Dimir commander, where whenever you cast a historic spell, you draw a card, and Bossum can't be blocked for the end of turn. Bossum is from the Assassin's Creed set, to anyone that doesn't know. And whenever Bossum deals combat damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, making it bigger every time you're casting historic spells, which are artifacts, legendary cards, or sagas. It's essentially a lot of low mana, uh, artifact creatures, artifacts in general, or legendary creatures that can help benefit him. Things that boost assassins and stuff, because Assassin's Creed is a ton of that. So you're able to, like, something like that with Voltron is what I absolutely love to do. And he does a very good job at it. But other than that, it's mostly mill, but it's fun to have like those types of like outliers who are able to do random things that you don't expect. Speaking of things you don't expect, Rakdos, I like it a little bit more than Dimir. I think one of my favorite things for Rakdos is Group Hug. I know, sounds absolutely wild to say, but Group Hug and Rakdos. You run it with the way that you run Rakdos in Group Hug and Rakdos is you end up playing a really weird style of Magic. where you're running uh Karavek the Merciless. That's what it is. Where whenever an opponent casts a spell, it deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. You're pretty much saying, hey, whenever you like, hey, player one like I'm player two, oh, player one casts a spell. Well, player one, who do you want this damage go to? Anything on player three or four's battlefield. If you say anything at me, I'm just gonna do that damage to you. That way, I'm playing group hug. I'm playing group slug. I'm essentially being everyone's weapon. You run that with Karavek the Merciless, and then you also get uh Lord of Pain in there. Lord of Pain is essentially the same thing, but it's for their first spell. And it's just really awesome. You can play stuff like Heartless Hidetsugu too to play extra to do extra damage to people when you need them to, or you just want to speed up the game, get it to a point where you want it to. Disrupt Decorum to goad everything. Be like, all right, guys, y'all are playing too passively. Let's speed things up. Let's start swinging. Same thing with like a Cardor in there. Make them swing. You can even encourage people to swing at you with like Judas the Scourge Diva, where you can make them swing at you. You block, kill a creature. You end up dealing a damage to any target of that player's choice. Or you're punishing people for swinging at you rather than at their opponents because you're playing group hug. You don't want to do anything like that. Like, it's a really interesting mechanic that not many people really expect out of Rakdos because, again, it's mostly just burn spells. Burn spells kill things, mess with the graveyard, stuff like that, and that's also just really fun to do to begin with, But I like to play things really weird, as you've already heard off of everything I've talked about here. Speaking of weird, Gruul, I'm gonna put it in B tier, even though Gruul has probably the deck I've played the most out of. That being Kibo. Kibo Uktabi Prince. He gives you bananas, and in fact, I actually have little plastic banana toy like pieces, like little plastic bananas that I give out to players and stuff. So I can be like, "Hey guys, look, don't attack me. Look, I give you funny plastic banana." And people love it. And I usually get like second place, if not first, because trust me, the deck is pretty much just hating artifacts, and since I'm giving you artifacts, I'm forcing you to sacrifice it. And I'm playing it more of like a passive way, and then just at one full fell swoop to sweep the board, or at least like sweep one player off the map. Selesnya, I feel like Selesnya is either enchantments or control. And I've already gave my opinion on control. I think control sucks. But again, I mean, this is another thing that's like one of my favorite decks, which actually now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna put it at B tier. One of my favorite decks, and I've either talked about it already or I'm about to talk about it. Jasmine Boreal the 7. She pretty much allows your vanilla creatures that have no abilities be unblockable because not many people are going to be running vanilla creatures unless they're running tokens. So if you're able to just swing at people who aren't playing token decks, you're pretty much swinging for free. And it's a really cool concept, and it works well with tokens too. If you can make tokens, you can run it with something like Heir Apparent too, which is something that I've built and worked with. It's a great group hug one too, actually. With something like Glunch the Bestower, you can run with. You're losing out on your great blue group hug cards, but honestly, green and white already have so many phenomenal ones, Rites of Flourishing, stuff like that, that allow you to get more stuff out of your group hug, like out of other players, than blue ever gets you. Next up, we have Orzhov. I actually also really like Orzhov. It's another one of those big token ones, but where you're punishing people for with those tokens. You know, like you're sacking tokens, you're dealing damage based off those tokens, stuff like that. One of my favorite ones for that is Campbell, Profiteering Mayor. You know, it's a fun deck that doesn't do a whole lot other than sit there and steal tokens from you and deal some big damage out of it. You For the first token that your opponents make each turn, you will create a tap token that's a copy of it. And then whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, everyone loses a life, you gain a life. What you end up doing is stuff like marching Duodrone, making people tokens, stuff like that. Then you're also making creature tokens and stuff. You have sack outlets, so stuff like Elastil Core, Cruel Celebrant, Blood Artist, Suture Priest, you know, Teysa Karlov to double those, you know. Like there's a lot of in Teysa Karlov's also a really fun commander for Orzhov, doing similar things as Campbell, but without that like token engine behind it. Is my favorite. Uh, Probably my favorite. I would probably either say that or Simic. So my favorite deck that or my second favorite, it used to be my favorite, it's now my second favorite, is uh is an Arjun the Shifting Flame deck. So Arjun is badass. Whenever you cast a spell, you put the cards in your hand at the bottom of your library in any order, and you draw that many cards. Meaning you essentially reset your hand at every spell cast. Now, the way that my deck works is it's a bunch of really cheap burn spells or just casual draw spells, stuff like Faithless Looting, Serum Visions, Vandal Blast, Opt, Fists of Flame, Brainstorm, Rapid Hybridization, Pongify, stuff like that that you can cast for 1, maybe 2 mana, and you're able to then get a bunch of cards back, and you're playing a bunch of things that punish draw. Something like, you know, an infinite between Niv-Mizzet Perrin and Niv-Mizzet Visionary. Chasm Skulker, getting a big Chasm Skulker out of it. You're getting, you know, Psychosis Crawler, you know, dealing a bunch of damage to off your draws. Oneirophage, making you get bigger off of it, you know. There's like Teferi's Ageless Insight, allowing you to draw twice as, essentially doubling your hand every spell cast. Jace's Erasure to mill your opponents out while you're doing that. Ominous Seas, allowing you to make 8/8 tokens off of your card draws. Stuff like that. It's such an interesting concept for a deck. It takes a while to get going, as Arjun is 6 mana, so he's a hard one to get going because, again, like I mentioned with mono red, you don't have much way to get red mana out of, unless you are able to like run your sack lands and you have dual lands that you're able to search for in green. Like red has next to no ramp. Blue doesn't really help that at all. The only thing that it does is accelerate your card draw. But it's such a fun combination of colors that it, even though by themselves they're not that fun or all that great, together they work so well. And it's so much fun to play when you're able to do, like, you're not like just burn spells and counter spells, like you're actually having an interesting strategy going with it. Speaking of interesting strategies, Golgari. Going right up there, Golgari has a lot of really fun things going for it as well. Chatterfang is a great example of that. Chatterfang is a ton of fun to play. Although I don't own a Chatterfang deck, nor do I play Chatterfang. But, you know, stuff like another one, similar to the Finn the Fangbearer deck I talked about where I will be talking about when I talk about these Magic decks, is Aveline from the Assassin's Creed set, which is whenever a creature with Death Touch that I control deals combat damage to a player, I put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Stuff like that, where it's like, you know, these interesting combos that you're able to have work very well simply off the fact of just a keyword ability that's already really common in these two colors that you are casting for next to nothing. and getting huge benefits out of it. But then there's also like the Renmaw, which is another really cool one. There's Abomination of Llanowar is another really cool one. It's similar to it's a essentially an elf sacking deck. It's a card that works pretty well with Lathril, which is another great commander. Like Golgari has so many different mechanics to it. Like, sure, everything that's good in Golgari's banned. There definitely is a lot of good in Golgari banned. But you also have so many strong things that aren't banned that are also just genuinely a lot of fun to play. And Golgari has that. Boros is another one. I like Boros not as much as the other three there. Boros is mostly like your equipment decks and aura decks, and I mean that's fun. Usually, like Voltron's a lot of fun. I don't blame anyone who plays Voltron. But again, it's also a great token deck, and that's what I really like. So, uh, an example of this one, I had to quickly scroll through all my decks because, as you've seen, I have quite a lot. One of my favorite one is uh Arabella. Arabella's a great one, especially when it comes to tokens. Again, just like with Jasmine, you could run it with Heir Apparent. Heir Apparent and Arabella work perfectly together since, Heir Apparent, you're making a ton of 1/1 rabbits. Then you also are running, your damage doublers and stuff. So every turn you're essentially hitting for an enormous amount of damage while doing very, very little to get to that number. And it allows you to spiral games really quickly. Speaking of spiraling games quickly, Simic. Simic's a ton of fun. My absolute favorite deck I own right now is Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief. It's a Simic creature that is literally just green blue. And essentially any spell that you cast, that a player casts that targets a singular creature, Ivy gets that too. So good luck mutating, good luck being a Voltron, because Ivy's going to do that too. And in mutates where that gets really scary because you're able to essentially double every single mutate trigger you're getting. So like even if you have something like Gemrazor and like a pouncing shore shark on a creature, you're then like, oh yeah, I have pouncing shore shark and Gemrazor on two creatures, so I'm getting 4 triggers. Then I put on an Auspicious Sterix on top of that. And then now I'm getting 6 enchantments or artifacts destroyed. I'm returning 6 creatures to my opponent's hands. Like, I'm essentially able to board wipe off of that. That you don't normally get it off of a single mutate deck. That's why mutate's not all that great, because you kind of have to hope that one creature can stick through the entire way. With Ivy, you can, even if one of your mutate creatures get killed, you still have another one. Next up, we have Bant. Bant is the quintessential group hug. I mean, you have Bumbleflower, you have what else? I'm blanking on Feldergriff is another one that's in Bant too. That good old green, blue, white. It's also great control because Selesnya is great at control, Simic's great at control, Azorius is great at control. Now you have all 3 of them together. Another one that I really like to do with this is uh, running a Slime Against Humanity deck with this. Persistent Petitioners mixed with Slime Against Humanity. You can run Catilda and Lier, which whenever you cast human spells such as Persistent Petitioners, you are able to have a instant or sorcery in your graveyard get flashback for the end of turn. So you can give a Slime Against Humanity that you cast or milled flashback, And Slime Against Humanity counts all cards that are named Slime Against Humanity in not only your graveyard but your exile. So you're essentially able to give your Slime Against Humanity 2 casts, allowing you, say you run 24 in your deck, you're now getting 48 Slimes Against Humanity, essentially. And that's not the only one that you can thing that you run with it. You know, like I said, Group Hug, your Miss Bumbleflower, Feldegriff. There's also the new Chaco Seeker of Paradise, where it comes with Bird Tribal. That's always fun. Who doesn't love some big old birds to essentially cascade and get as many lands as possible onto your battlefield? Like, Bant has so many really interesting strategies, not just control, that allow you to play a ton of different things and even run them all at the same time, because you can run multiple different strategies like this at the same time. Next up, though, we have Esper. I don't really like. I know I've built Esper. Like, I built a couple of them. But I've never really played Esper. So I kind of just have to say it's unused. Like, I built it, but I've genuinely never played an Esper deck that I have built. I've only built like 3. That being like Azura the Enchanter. I built the Esper Urza, as well as a Hashiton deck. And even that Hashiton's really not all that good. So I guess I have played it because I did play the Hashiton deck I built, and it wasn't all that good. But that's also just the fact that I'm not good at building decks, or at least when it came to this. Like, it's a strategy I'm not too familiar with, and if I took more time, I could probably build one more fun. But Esper is just not really my thing. Next up, we have Grixis. Grixis is all right. I have a Sauron deck that's pretty cool, but other than that, I mean, it's all right. Nekuzar is another really cool one, where it's essentially similar to like a Niv-Mizzet, but for everyone. You know, like, oh, you know, you draw a card, you're taking a life, and I'm able to make people draw extra cards every turn. You know, like, it's a cool card. It's just it's not my kind of color. Same thing with Jund. I really haven't done much with Jund. I do know that Jund is a really strong color. Because you're taking Gruul, you're taking Golgari, and you're taking Rakdos, and you're able to mush them all together into something really interesting. Uh, but I mean, it's all right. I will say, I did build a really interesting deck with Weda Trainer Prodigy, where it makes for two colorless and a green, you could tap her. Target creature I control deals fights another creature. It costs 2 less if it targets 2 creatures I control. And if a creature you control being dealt damage causes a triggered ability or permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. That allows me to essentially make my creatures fight and deal damage to other people based off of that fight. And even if it dies, you know, it's okay. Like, it's whatever. My main targets is to get something like a Brash Taunter to deal damage to a big creature that I have, like a Hungering Hydra. You know, Mog Maniac dealing damage to like a Boros Reckoner. You know, able to get like swing at each other and then they deal that much damage to other people, allowing me to essentially deal combat damage without going into combat. It's a really fun deck strategy. I just realized I'm talking about a Naya deck, not a Jund deck. So I guess I can continue talking about Naya because Naya is pretty cool. Another one is like Preston Garvey. There it is. I was thinking of the joke where another settlement needs your help. Like, he's another really cool commander that works really well in the deck. in the color combination because you're able to get a lot of big enchantment creatures out. Get a lot of modified creatures, and then be able to untap them at the end of each at the start of each combat, allowing you to swing allowing you to swing again, allowing you to something that is tapping for mana. You can tap it, and then when you attack with Preston, you can untap it to then make them attack. Stuff like that. As for Jund, actually, let's actually talk about Jund. I know Jund I'm not a big fan of, though. Jund is red, green, and black. The only thing that I found really interesting about it is Ognis the Dragon's Lash, which is making tap treasure tokens for your haste creatures, essentially. You want to play a bunch of really low mana haste creatures, swing them, get tap treasures, use that to cast your burn spells and stuff like that. That's essentially the goal of the deck, and that's really about the only thing that you're getting out of effects with Ognis, and that's really the only thing I've ever done with Jund that I've actually enjoyed. Abzan is another one that's a little weird and that I'm not a big fan of. I'm gonna pull up my decks here. So Abzan is green, white, and black. I actually don't think I've ever built Abzan. And I don't think I have a way to search for that on Moxfield. So I will just say I have not used it because I actually don't think I have. While we go on to the next one, Jeskai. Jeskai is another interesting one. It is one of my favorite things with this is energy decks. Something like Satya, Liberty Prime, stuff like that. Zardu is another really good one for group hug as well. But the one that I want to talk about the most is Zinnia. Now, Zinnia, I built a really, really strong Zinnia, like, personally, where you run a bunch of token doublers that are in white, something like Anointed Procession, Ojurtalk, Mondrak, and I'm assuming now, you have the Elspeth in there too. And you're taking Zinnia, and you're able to make Offspring, which makes a 1/1 copy after you pay the 2 colorless. You play something like Soul Warden for 1 mana, and then you pay the 2, then you now get, you might get another Soul Warden, you might get 3 Soul Wardens, you might get 6 Soul Wardens, you might get 12 Soul Wardens, you might get 24 Soul Wardens. Like if the stars align. Plus, if that's the first time that the spell is cast and you do something like a Delaný Streetwise Lookout, you then, for something like Soul Warden, you're then able to do it again and get another cast of another set of tokens. And then Zinnia gets really big really quick, and you can just swing for big damage. Since it's a flyer, you're essentially able to kill players in one hit pretty quickly. With that though, I'm gonna put Jeskai in A tier because again, like I said, I enjoy playing Jeskai. I don't play it often, and I don't own any Jeskai decks personally, but it's still a really fun deck type. Sultai is another one that I actually don't think I've ever built. Like I might have, like going through my decks, I see like Bant Mardu, as well as Naya. But actually I do see some Sultai here. We got oh yeah, right here we got Gonti Canny Inquisitor. That's one of the decks I built that is a mono, not mono. That is a Sultai deck. Where if you're not familiar with how Gonti usually works, Gonti essentially steals other people's cards and allows you to cast them. But with Gonti Canny Inquisitor, you're whenever any creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can take the top card of their library and you can play it face down. You can play it. Now, the deck you can run, since you're in blue, you're getting all your unblockable blues, your Triton Shore Stalker, your Invisible Stalker, Slither Blade, Thieving Skydiver. Thieving Skydiver is not unblockable. Ghostly Pilfer is, like you get your 1 mana unblockables. You also have like Akima Stalking Shadow that is a blue black, and you're able to swing out at everyone unblockable, steal their top card, and cast them, and do it again. While it's fun, it's not reliable. Nobody has fun with this. It's one of the main reasons why like Dimir and Mono Blue are so low, because again, nobody has fun when you're playing it. And that's why I'm gonna put it a little low. Like Sultai you can have a lot of fun with Sultai. Like I feel like Sultai is one of those really interesting color combinations that not many people really talk about. Uh, but it can do some pretty good work, Like there's also like Mothman, which is another one that I'm not gonna really talk about because I hate Mill and I really want to be able to be like not confident but positive about. So that maybe people actually go and play it. Next up, we have Mardu. Mardu is the color combination I started out with because my first deck was the Hail Caesar Precon. And I love that deck. It is the reason why I love creature token decks, because the Caesar deck is so strong and so fun. And then now it's even more fun with the fact that in Tarkir, Mardu got a bunch of new token creatures and stuff with the new like Zurgo Precon, that it's just such a fun deck to work with. I'm actually planning on upgrading the deck with essentially just cards from the Mardu Precon in Tarkir, and as well as in Elspeth that I pulled in Tarkir, to just make this to make it just an absolute beast of a deck. Temur is another one that is one of my favorites as well. I'm actually currently still buying a Temur deck, that being a deck that I'm calling Dragons on a large budget, because it's a large budget. Like a very very large budget, like a $300 budget. Uh I bought the vast majority of the cards except for like the big ones like your Twin Flame Tyrant, Old Gnawbone, the new Ureni from the Tarkir Precon, as well as Scourge of the Volcus is another one that I haven't bought, but it also has stuff like Dracogenesis and Omniscience in there to get stuff out for free. It's a bit of redundancy. Everyone's asking me about that. It's for the redundancy of it. But this deck is pretty much just doubling your dragons. It doesn't have Astral Dragon in it, which I probably should add, but again, I wanted to keep this as a little bit more on a budget, and all like my expensive cards I really need in the deck and can't afford to get rid of. The only thing I could possibly get rid of is like Old Gnawbone for it, which I haven't bought, thankfully, and it would actually cut down the price of the deck a bit. But Old Gnawbone is really nice for being able to just guarantee that I can cast my creatures. The last two that I'm gonna be able to talk about, because I actually haven't built or played a deck of Altruism, Aggression, Chaos, or Artifice, is Growth and WUBRG. So Growth, the only time I've built and played Growth is for an Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, Poison deck, and it's an asshole, and I nobody likes me when I play it. I'm sorry, not really. It's actually a lot of fun. Because you can just essentially win the game in like 6 turns. Like it's disgusting. As for WUBRG, I'm gonna put WUBRG in A tier for decks that I built, because I really haven't built many of them. But one of my absolute favorite decks is a technically 5 color, technically colorless type deck. That being uh mirrors. Mirrors are so much fun to work with. I know you're probably expecting me to say like slivers. Slivers are another really fun one, but again, not really that strong and just kind of a toxic environment that you know that like once you start playing, once someone sees you playing slivers, everyone's like, okay, you're playing slivers. I'm just gonna take you out first. Like you're essentially making yourself the group villain just by existing. Whereas with mirrors, it's a little bit harder to justify it because mirrors themselves aren't all that strong. You know, like the strongest mirror is like a 4 power, 4 toughness. Uh, like there's also mirror battlesphere, which is like a 4/7. Other than that, like it's all 4/4s at the most with no keywords. The power comes from like Urtet's ability to untap each mirror at combat, allow you to put a bunch of +1s on your mirrors each turn. Stuff like Darksteel Forge making them all indestructible. Mirror Matrix giving them +1s. Forsaken Monument adding more colorless mana to ensure that you're able to make creatures. Your token doublers allowing you to make more mirrors based off of your mirror related creatures, stuff like that. So that is all for the wonderful uh tier list here. Uh Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I will link my Moxfield account too if you want to go look at my decks from over the time I played Magic to see how bad they still are. Because again, I have like over 500 decks, so there's a lot to go through and a lot to talk about. Which is why I wanted to start a series where I talk about Magic decks too, because again, I want to be able to get people more into the game, and Magic's really intimidating when you start it. That's one of the main reasons why I never wanted to play Magic, because it's a very intimidating game. But going after learning how to play it, it's a lot more fun, a lot more like self-explanatory than you would expect. And that's the cool thing with like the crossovers and stuff like Fallout, Final Fantasy and stuff. Like it allows people who aren't familiar with Magic the Gathering something to get them interested in it, to get them to start and then start to learn about the other creatures and other characters in the games or in the sets, and I guess yeah, in the games, because you have like Magic Arena, Magic Battlegrounds, Battle for the Plane, Battle of the Planeswalkers, something like that. One of the Xbox 360 games. Like, there's a lot of Magic stuff to talk about that not many people really know and are too afraid to talk about because of the fact that it's hard to talk about. It's hard to learn because it's a very daunting task. Because there is just so much history to it. Because Magic is what, 30 years old at this point, like almost 30. So yeah, there's a lot to it. But that's all I'm gonna have for this video. We'll look forward to what's coming next. Again, check the links in the description for my affiliate link uh for Razer. Get some great gear. Like I said last time, before, I have a Razer keyboard and mouse myself. Phenomenal products. I'm so glad to be part of their creator family. Use the affiliate link, help support the show. Leave a comment below on what you want me to talk about next. Whether it be for tier lists, whether it be for, looking at like old games, uh, challenge videos, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you guys think of the comments below, and I will see you all next time. I hope you all have a wonderful day.